Please welcome Mary Kay Plays.
Nothing like a disaster to get you revved up after an intense movie. There's a music festival and all the Ubers are up on somewhere, and it took 40 minutes to get it to come, and then we got lost, and oh, it was a disaster. Hi. Hi.
Well, all's well that ends well.
Yes, my leg is shaking, but other than that.
Well, we're just... when I introduced the film, and we were just talking because I was bantering, I was telling them the most remarkable scene where, you know, we listened to Leon Russell, and we're in that jukebox. And, you know, when we listen to Out in the Woods, and all of a sudden, I don't think I've ever seen anything like it, where you see the not unraveling, we see all the guilt and all the laws coming out of the character, and we see her as a younger person, as a free, you know. Can you tell us about that scene?
I asked Kent if I could dance to this Leon Russell song, because I just wanted to show her lighter and having a moment of freedom in some way, even if it doesn't last long. I wanted to show that. And I'm a big kitchen dancer. I like to dance in the kitchen with someone or alone. Either way is fun. And so yeah, I wanted to show that.
And you understood that in that dance we will see the trajectory of the character.
Yes, because you know, when you start drinking, you go through a lot of different mood swings. And bless her heart, she needed to have a cocktail or two. She might have had a few too many, but she felt better until she didn't, and then she started feeling worse.
There is so much of your character, the emotions and what you're going through, that is on the surface, that is not spoken. Was that something that you found really exciting and fun to convey all of her through, you know, its surface?
I said there was an inner,
yes. Inner.
I said there was an inner and an outer dialogue going on. So it was fun to figure out what the inner dialogue was, the unspoken dialogue.
But did you and Kent, when you guys were talking about the movie, did he actually guide you through what was underneath the surface?
No, he had no idea what was going on underneath the surface. That evolved. The one good thing about shooting in 20 days, and I seriously doubted if I would have the stamina for that, is that much to my surprise, there's a flow that happens, because you don't have to gear up every single day. You kind of maintain this rhythm, and it feeds right in. It's like a spring water just flowing, and once it's established, it kind of showed up. You know, the unconscious shows up once you're engaged with it. And so that started just forming. Some of it I wasn't conscious of till we actually started shooting. But when you do it over and over, it even develops more in the scene.
I mentioned to the audience that you're surrounded by this remarkable ensemble that happens. You have so many theater performers. You have Stale Parsons that's done so much theater. You have Didi O'Connell that's done so much theater. Yes. Celia Keenan Bolger, who's now on To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway. What was it like? Did that make a difference to have all these ensemble of theatrical performers?
It made a difference to have brilliant actresses, definitely. And they were all brilliant. And you know, we all, unfortunately, most of them only worked 1 or 2 days, 3, maybe the most, because we shot all those scenes together. So it wasn't like I got to work with him every day throughout the 20-day shoot, but just, you know, those 1 or 2 people scenes were so delicious and really, really exciting, and they were all wonderful. And it was great to see them all in one movie.
There is a beautiful sense of specificity about the family gatherings that brings so much humanity about gathering with families. Can you tell us about shooting those scenes in the kitchen where the men are standing, the women are sitting around? There's so much bickering happening.
I just think it's so true, that scene of what family gatherings are like. There might be some of you who have ideal, perfect families out there, but I think most of us witness this kind of family situation. And I think the cinematographer in Kent did a masterful job in the weaving in and out, like that child that goes under the table and comes in, grabs cookies, goes back down under the table. I love all of that stuff, and I think it took a while for them to work out the choreography of that and the way the camera moved and just the business, the blocking of all that. But I thought it really worked beautifully, and that's one of my favorite scenes, and I was really looking forward to when we shot it. And I love every actor in it. I just thought they were so perfect.
I told the audience that this is your first leading role in a film after a long, incredible career you've had. You've done everything. What took so long for you to be leading a film?
Well, I've had offers to be the lead in films and television shows before, but I never felt they were the right ones for me. Either I didn't think the script was, I don't want to say good enough, but it just didn't ring true to me in a way, or it wasn't a part I felt like I had any business playing. Or in one case, I was offered the lead in a television series on CBS, and it was from another thing I had done, and I knew on CBS we couldn't have the freedom to do what we had done in Mary Hartman, and so I didn't do that because it would be a watered-down version or some kind of cornball sitcom version of what we had done, which was original and unique. And so to me, it's the part, not the size of the part. So I have had some amazing characters in my day, and then when they're less amazing, I learn other things. So it's never been about the size, and I've never, it's my goal, oh, I've got to be a lead in a movie. I just want to be in a movie that's meaningful, that is fun, that's interesting, or that can pay the rent that month.
And what was it like? What was it about Diane that compelled you to take?
Everything. I thought, here is a movie about it. Now, and by the way, I didn't know if one single human being would ever show up to see this movie, or if it would ever get made, because I am definitely not a bankable star name, or so I've been told for the last 30 years. No, I knew that. And so when he gave me the script, I said, Kent, you know you will not get one dime for this movie with my name. So I just want you to know that, because you're going to hear that time and time again. He said, I'm not the least bit concerned, which I was impressed by. But then I thought, it's a sad story about a woman where everyone dies. There's nothing shiny and sassy about it at all, and it's a normal, everyday woman. No one's going to make this movie. But I loved the character, and what's weird, it was not a conventional screenplay formula. It was mysterious, and when it's not, I started reading it, and it was over like that, and that surprised me. Because usually you're thinking about this and that, and then you have to read the dialogue again. Where am I? What's happening? This just flowed immediately, and I felt it in my body. It resonated in my body, so I knew it was the part for me.
When I introduced the film as well, I mentioned that this film goes to places that we don't expect, and your performance goes places where we don't expect. You know, there's a fine line between reality and hallucination, imagination. There is
The shoot-up heroin scene is a dream, by the way, representing letting go and ecstasy.
And you know, those moments of you know, traveling in film and through cinema between reality and imagination and space and time, it's just a very unique film. So you're telling us that was on the script when you first read it?
The heroin shoot-ups?
No, the whole traveling between what's hallucinatory.
Yes, I didn't, he had described the car without seeing the driver going down the road. I didn't fully get that when I read the script. There were mysterious parts to it, and for the first time in my life, I didn't demand that I knew everything. I allowed the mystery, and that was a spiritual event for me, believe me. So that was a change right there, that I allowed myself to hold the tension of not knowing.
And I'm glad you brought spirituality, because I'm not a religious person, but there was so much spirituality in this film, and I see the little hints that she's got a crucifix over her bed. She is religious, but not, doesn't practice, but there is such spirituality in this film. I'm glad
I think so too. I like that part of it.
And is that something that you were aware inhabiting, Diane?
Yes, I prayed all the time. It was for me. I was praying a lot that something not ordinary in a spiritual direction would emerge. But that doesn't make sense. But I'm spiritual in my own weird, crazy way, and that allowed me to get through this. Mm-hmm. And I was hoping some of that would eke out. And just because I think it's a very spiritual story, I think her journey is a spiritual one as well as a psychological one.
Mm-hmm. When the driving is happening, I mean, did Kent ever explain to you why she's driving so much?
Well, I started to get the metaphor. I think Kent talks about this in many interviews, the fact that this is a small town community and you can't walk anywhere. You have to get in your car and drive to go to all these events and errands and things. So there's a monotony about it, because it's, you see those same streets again and again, like one guy at a screening said, what is this getting in the car, and we're going back in the car and it's winding up the roads? And I said, just as irritated as you are right now, think how irritated she is. Every day she gets back in that car. But I think it tied the elements together. I think it kind of morphed into something else. It became not only connective tissue for the scenes, but the passing of time, and it started to kind of put me in a trance in a way. After the irritation slightly fades.
Winter is it's another character in this film. Mm-hmm. Although you mentioned that there is a lot of passage of time within, the scope of the film, we're stuck in winter. And how did that affect your performance and developing Diane, that it's this constant winter?
Kent said all along, this is a winter film. And it was freezing cold, but not hideously cold, and icy and snowy, but I think it kind of helped, because it set a mood. It was a good thing, I think.
In what way?
Because it felt like the winter of her life. It's because it was cold and the leaves weren't on the trees and there was snow on the ground. It set a certain mood as we were actually physically doing the shooting. Mm-hmm. So you were cold, but again, not unbearable.
Mm-hmm. I've never been more aware in a film of watching costumes and the choices that were made, your code, the hat that you wear, and Estelle Parsons' little beanie that she wears when she comes to pick you up, and they all inform the different characters. Were you involved with the costume choices? And
Very much so.
And can you tell us?
Carissa was our great costume designer, and she and I went to all these thrift stores and used clothing stores, and we found my entire wardrobe from clothes other people had worn that we laundered. But
that we laundered.
But I did have a new pair of Not Your Daughter's jeans. They were appropriately cornball, and these boots that I have on right now. They're for La Canadienne, and you can wear them in the snow and ice, and they're amazing, and I love them, and I'm still wearing them. But yes, we did not go to Bloomingdale's. This would not be appropriate for Diane, an ensemble from Bloomingdale's. I think of her as worn, soft, cuddly clothes, like wrap yourself up by a fireplace kind of clothes. Not the most stylish, but certainly comfortable.
And working with Jake, who plays your son, can you tell us about working with him?
I adored him. He was fantastic. And I thought he did a brilliant job, and we really had fun doing those scenes. Because, you find a certain rhythm that you have to find. It's like jazz. Every time you want to slightly do it a little different, and or find something fresh in it, but just figuring out what the beats are and the rhythm of those scenes is what's so exciting, and how the back and forth.
And did you have rehearsal time before?
Yes, we did, and that's the other thing. The 20 days seems like a very short time, but it was like the fishes and the loaves. We had as much time as we needed, it turned out. So we had enough time to find those moments, to really work out the beats of the scene, and yet at the same time, we got it shot and we got a full, day's work. So it was interesting that we had just as much time as we needed.
It's a somber movie, but there are these funny moments in it, and we find ourselves laughing. Were you aware of? You have Andrea Martin, which was one of the funniest women, and you're incredibly funny. Were you guys tempted to add humor to it?
No. I wanted the humor to only be, what would normally be funny, ironically or whatever, in that situation, but not milk it ever. No, because if it's natural human comedy, then that's one thing, just people behaving normally, and in that context it happens to be funny. But there were no jokes written or anything, and there was no milking, because the tone has to be true to what the circumstances are.
And when I introduced the film, and when we were waiting for you, I mentioned that Kent Jones, this is his first feature film. He did Hitchcock Truffaut, and he's a programmer for New York Film Festival. And what was it like working with Kent?
He's like a Zen master. He's a real calm man. And he has an incredible knowledge of film history, a wide variety of films. He has almost a photographic memory, so he retains a lot of information. And I had read another screenplay of his, which was also totally outside of the box, but really, really well written and interesting. So I had faith that he knew more than I could imagine, that he had a vision for this. And much of it I understood, and some parts I probably didn't, and those mystery parts I certainly didn't. And he did have something in mind. But he was very open, very collaborative, didn't have to be, would say, I'm not sure, I don't know about a certain thing. And we worked, it was really nice to work together. I enjoyed it very much. And we just moved smoothly along.
Yeah, I was just blown away to hear that it was his first film.
Well, this is a film he has been thinking about since he was about 15, because it's about his mother's family and his mother. He was not a heroin addict, but his good friend who lived down the street was. And so he put his friend's story in with his mother and his aunts, who were always serving other people and doing all that. I'm sorry, I realize I haven't been looking over in this area. Hello. Because I was geared over towards Roger.
No, that's right.
But he had been contemplating this, and he also told me, because we served on the Berkshire Film Festival film jury together. That's how we met. And he said when he saw me in Francis Coppola's John Grisham novel, The Rainmaker, he thought, she can play my mother. Then he met me and he said, I've been wanting to write a script about my mother and her family, and I want you to play the lead. You'll never get a penny. But so this is a very personal story to him. And I think that's because it's so personal, it had extra energy and juice.
The reviews, I mentioned to the audience, and that this is like the best reviewed independent film of the year. And that your performance, everybody's just saying that this is one of the greatest performances. How does it feel?
Shocking. I've never been so shocked and surprised in my life. It almost doesn't feel real. It's too good.
Oh, you deserve it. And are there going to be now more leading roles for Mary Kay Price?
Probably not.
Why?
Well, I mean, they're so rare to find a good leading role anyway. And there's so many incredibly wonderful actresses, and I think everybody should get an opportunity, if I do say so. So who knows? But my happiness will not depend on getting another lead role. I'm perfectly happy as long as it's a good role and an interesting role. And I love ensemble work. So yeah, I'm not going to now go, well, I'm only going to wait for the lead roles, because I could be waiting till I'm in the rest home, and I don't have that much time left.
Well, thank you, Mary Kay, for coming. What a joy. You were worth the wait.
Thank you. I'm so sorry about that Uber snafu.
Totally worth the wait.